Good evening, everybody. I am home early from vacation because bad weather cut my trip short. So I am here today with a reading progress update and talking about some anticipated releases for some anticipated reads in August. Some are general TBR and some are new releases. The first book I wanted to talk about is Goosebumps, The Haunted Mask. I got the graphic novel version when I went to Innisfree Bookshop in Meredith on July 11th. I've read this was my favorite Goosebumps book when I was a kid, so I picked it up for the nostalgic purposes. And I gave it 4.5 stars. Carly Beth needs the perfect Halloween mask, one that will scare everyone she comes across, including her annoying little brother and the bullies from her school. A visit to a strange costume store provides just the right one. An ugly green with fierce fangs, and the mask makes Carly Beth feel powerful and scary. But when the mask won't come off, will the monster take over? The next book I borrowed from Kathleen this morning. It is Anna Kendrick's memoir, Scrappy Little Nobody. I just started this at 10 this morning, and I am on page 63. Even before she made a name for herself on a silver screen, starring in films like Pitch Perfect, Up in the Air, Twilight, and The Accountant, Anna Kendrick was unusually small, weird, and 10% defiant. At the ripe age of 13, she had already resolved to keep the crazy inside my head where it belonged, forever. But here's the thing about crazy. It wants out. With her razor-sharp wit and Scrappy Little Nobody, Anna recounts the absurdities that she experiences on her way to and from the heart of pop culture. As the only she can form an unusual path to the performing arts. Vanilla Ice and baggy neon pants may have played a role to her double life. As a middle school student who started on Broadway, to her initial dating experience, to reviewing a binder full of butt doubles, to her struggle to live like an adult woman instead of a perpetual man-child. Enter Anna's world and follow her rise from Scrappy Little Nobody to somebody who dazzles on a stage screen and now the page. The next book I borrowed from my mother-in-law, Sally, is Foster by Kurt Keegan. I read Small Things Like These at the beginning of last year and loved it. Her books are really short, so I should be able to finish this in a day or two. Currently, I am on page 37, chapter 4. It is a hot summer in rural Ireland. A child is taken by her father to live with relatives on a farm, not knowing when or if she will be brought home again. In the Kinsella's house, she finds an affection and warmth she has not known, and slowly in their care begins to blossom. But there is something unspoken in the new household, where everything is so well tended to that the summer must be not to come. Runner of the prestigious Davy Byrne Award and abridged for the New Yorker, this internationally acclaimed best-selling classic is now published for the first time and available in its original form in the U.S. A story of astonishing emotional depth, Foster showcases Claire Keegan's great talent and secures her reputation as one of our most important storytellers. The next book that I'm reading, I picked up when I was on vacation in Connecticut. It's called Harboring Hope, the true story of how Henry Sinding helped Denmark's Jews escape the Nazis. As you all know, I love World War II historical fiction, so when I saw this in the gift shop at the Mystic Seaport Museum, I picked it up right away. A true story. It wouldn't be easy, but they had to try. It was her only chance to survive. In 1943, years after the Nazi occupation of Denmark began, word spread to the Gestapo's insidious plans to round up the Jewish population and deport them to concentration camps. Angry at this attack on their friends and fellow Danes, many in Denmark organized and fought back, including a young woman named Henry Sinding. At only 22 years old, she and the crew of the Gerda III, a lighthouse supply boat, risked everything to smuggle their Jewish compatriots across the Orensad Strait to safety in Sweden. In Henry's words, it was the right thing to do, and so we did it. Simple as that. But what happened when the operation's cover was blown and it was Henry's turn to escape? Told in verse by award-winning author Susan Hood, alias Anna and Lifeboat 12, this is the moving true story of how Henry and her fellow resistance fighters helped defend democracy and the Danish Jewish community during Germany's occupation of Denmark in World War II. The next book I borrowed from the library, and it's called The Violin Maker's Secret. I started this before I left for vacation, and I am on chapter 26, page 273. So I'm really enjoying this author's writing style, and unfortunately the barcode is covering up the description of the book, so I cannot read it to you right now. The next book I got out from the library before vacation is called Audrey Lane Stores the Pot by Alexis Hall. This is my first book by this author, and I'm really loving their odd... This is about a girl named Audrey who is on Britain's most beloved baking show. And all right, so maybe she's not completely fine, but being on Bake Expectations is opening her world again in a way she never anticipated. First through fellow contestant Doris, whose personal story of queer love during World War II captures Audrey's heart, imagination, and journalistic interest like nothing else in ages. Then through Jennifer Hollett, the most foul-tempered and fouler-mouthed producer, woman, and menace Audrey has ever met. Jennifer should be off limits, but her fire lights something unexpected inside of Audrey. It makes her worse to burn back a million times brighter, and a million times hotter, a million times more herself than she's ever been in a long, long time. I have really enjoyed following Audrey's character so far, and Alexis Hall's writing style is very engaging. I am on actually these chapters aren't numbered. I'm on page 165. The next book I'm rereading for the From Manhattan to Stars Hollow TBR is The Love Goddesses Cooking School by Melissa Senati, and I am currently on chapter 16, page 236. I first read this book back in April, and I'm rereading it again so I can do a better analysis of it. It focuses on Holly, who starts to teach a class on Italian cooking in her local town because she is taking over her grandmother's restaurant and trying to teach other people how to make the recipes. And this is on From Manhattan to Stars Hollow TBR because of the episode of Friends where Monica and Joey take a cooking class. That's in season 8. And I read this book in April and gave it 4 stars. The other reread I most recently completed was Across the Vanishing Sky by Catherine Cowles, which I took on vacation with me and read from Saturday to Monday. And I gave this book 5 stars. I really love Catherine Cowles' writing style. And the second book in this series just came out a couple of weeks ago. It's called Into the Fading Twilight, and I'm very excited to read it. The next book that I'm currently reading for my July TBR is Letters from the Last Apothecary by Bita Bizzotti. This book came out on June 9th, and it's a historical fiction that's centered around witches. It's a romance book that is focused between 2 people named Josephine and Josephine Pinova and Ophidius Reed. Now, when Josephine and Ophidius first meet, they kind of don't get along, but then somebody is writing her mysterious letters and she falls in love with them. And it ends up being the guy that she doesn't get along with. So I really have loved how this book has developed. The other book I borrowed from my neighbor Kathleen today is a reread for me from when I last read it in April. Hook, Line, and Sinker, which is the follow-up book to It Happened One Summer. And this focuses on Piper's sister, Hannah, and her relationship with Fox. And personally, I really liked the relationship in the first book much better than in this book because their relationship was much more fun to follow. Fox really annoys me a lot, so I don't really like him quite as much as Brendan, who is the main male character in the first book. Currently, I am on chapter 9, page 122. The next book that I am currently rereading is Happily Never After by Lynn Painter. This is her adult release from last spring, and I'm reading it because I came across a list of movies that describe 1990s rom-coms, and this book was paired up with The Wedding Singer, though I think it would also pair up with Wedding Crashers because it's about people who crash. This book is about 2 people who crash weddings who are named Sophie and Max. And I really love, much like Abby Jimenez and Emily Henry, Lynn Painter does a really good job of writing banter between her characters. In my reread, I am on chapter 15, page 78. So I'm not very far into this. The next reread I am reading for my Disability Pride Month TBR is More or Less Maddie by Lisa Genova. This book is by the same author of Still Alice, and I really love how this author researches her books in order to give her characters with disabilities more depth. Still Alice is about Alzheimer's. This book is about bipolar. And the next book I'm going to read by her from the library next is called Love, Anthony. And that book is about autism. In my reread of More or Less Maddie, I am currently on chapter 19, page 168. Finally, the last reread for Disability Pride Month that I'm currently reading is A Curse So Dark and Lonely by Bridget Kettemerer. I first read this 2 years ago for Disability Pride Month, and this is a retelling of Beauty and the Beast, where the main character, the main protagonist, who's supposed to be the Belle character, has cerebral palsy, which is my disability. And I gave this book 5 stars because I really love how Bridget Kemmerer gave a fairy tale protagonist my disability and how she wrote this character and how she goes through her everyday life and her challenges. In my reread of this book, I am currently on chapter 13, page 104. So, my anticipated August reads are Between Sisters by Kristen Hanna, Love in the Time of Cholera by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, Score by Kennedy Ryan, The Restoration of Lydia Fairchild by Marie Bostrick, The Road to Tender Hearts by Annie Hartnett, which just came in the library today, Until Next Summer by Allie Brady, and We Burn So Bright by TJ Klune. On my new releases TBR for August, I have Alex by Proxy, Daggerbound by T. Kingfisher, Eyes Like Stars by Ashley Poston, which is a retelling of Star Wars, which Ashley Poston mentioned when she did her book signing on the Sunday Garden. Fishbone Cinderella by Elizabeth Lim, Mirror Woven, Portrait of a Witch Undone, Seek the Traitor's Son by Veronica Roth, The Floating Paris Bookshop by Annabelle French, The Jellyfish Problem by Tessa Yang, and The Mashup by Laura Marie Myers. And for my nonfiction TBR, my TBR is Bird by Bird by Anne Lamont, Lost in Curiosity by Rebecca Kwok, Privacy Defenders, My 30-Year Fight in Digital Surveillance by Cindy Cron, Sex in the City by Jennifer Cation Sex in the City and Us by Jennifer Cation Armstrong, which is a reread, The Great Mortality by John Kelly, and When Driving is Not an Option by Anna Zavarts. So if you have read any of these books that I mentioned in this video, please leave me a comment letting me know what you think of them. And please share with me also what is on your TBR for August. Have a great weekend, everybody. And I will see you on August 7th for my next episode of Fan Theory of the Week.